When you enter your 60s, do you ever feel like you're forgetting little things? Have you ever found yourself forgetting things that are simple and very familiar? Perhaps the name of a childhood friend, the location of your car keys that you leave in the same place every day, or even the story your grandchild told you yesterday. These are just small things, but let's be honest with ourselves and ask, is it possible that I'm losing my memory? This is a problem that many people face. I remember one of my patients, Mrs. Elisa, 75 years old, who was once very sad because she couldn't remember the stories her grandchildren told her. She felt like she was slowly losing her connection with everyone. But I told her that memory loss is not an inevitable part of aging. It's often the result of a lack of certain habits and essential nutrients. After applying the 8 pieces of advice I'm about to share, Mrs. Elisa regained her self-confidence. She not only remembered the stories, but also learned new things. This story didn't happen to her alone. It's the shared feeling of millions of elderly people around the world. Some feel anxious, while others accept it, thinking it's a natural law of old age. But in reality, memory decline is not entirely inevitable, and this is where our story begins. I still remember a very special patient of mine, Mrs. Sophia, who is now over 75. She was once a very lively woman with an excellent memory. She could instantly recall birthdays and the favorite foods of each of her grandchildren. But then, in recent years, she began to forget more and more. At first, it was just small details, forgetting a coffee date with an old friend or her son's phone number. Once, she told me that while listening to her grandchild talk about school, she couldn't remember the content just a few minutes later. She felt frustrated, sad, and afraid. Afraid that one day she would forget the faces of her children and grandchildren, and even the memories of a life she had lived. This anxiety made her withdraw, speak less, smile less, and communicate less with those around her. But then, in a conversation, I told her something I also want to share with everyone listening to this story. Mrs. Sophia's story is not an exception. You know, when they cross the age of 60, many people often tell me that they feel like they are being left behind. They remember being so quick, able to handle tasks and recall every small detail of life, but now those things feel distant. Some forget familiar recipes they've made for years. Others decide to make a call but can't remember who they were going to call. These things can make us feel helpless, embarrassed, and sometimes even like we're a burden to our families. I remember Mr. John, an Asian American man who was once a math teacher. He told me that once, while solving a problem for his grandchild, he completely forgot the next step. He hesitated, stammering, while his grandchild looked at him with a puzzled expression. That moment made me want to cry, Mr. John said. I felt like I had lost my pride in front of my grandchild. In reality, when memory begins to decline, our biggest fear isn't just about forgetting, it's the fear of losing ourselves. We're afraid of losing the memories that have made us who we are. We're afraid of no longer remembering happy days, familiar faces, or the beautiful memories we have lived through. I often compare memory to an oil lamp. If we just let it burn without adding oil, the light will eventually fade. But if we know how to add fuel and tend to that flame, it will continue to shine brightly, illuminating our later years with clarity. During my years of working with the elderly, I have witnessed countless stories and thought a lot about this. Every person has a unique life and a unique journey, but when it comes to memory, the anxiety and worry are universal. I remember Mrs. Mary, a 68-year-old woman living in California. She was a dedicated nurse, accustomed to remembering every medication and every hour of patient care. But after she retired, she gradually realized she was forgetting things twice as often, like leaving the stove on or forgetting to lock the front door. She confided in me that the most painful part wasn't forgetting objects, but the feeling of being unreliable in the eyes of her husband and children. "I used to be the person everyone relied on," Mrs. Mary said, "but now it's the opposite. I'm the one who needs others." Then there was Mr. Robert, 72, a former military veteran. He was used to discipline, to having clear memories of his comrades and every military campaign. But as he got older, he found he couldn't remember where he put important documents. Once, he tried to tell his grandson a story from the war, but in the middle of it, his memory faded, and he fell silent. His grandson urged him on. "What happened next, Grandpa?" But Mr. Robert could only shake his head. He told me that day he felt like he had lost a part of his identity. Stories like these reinforce my belief that memory isn't simply about remembering or forgetting. It's the root of our self-confidence, of our inner belief, of the feeling that we are still in control of our lives. When our memory wavers, our entire inner world changes with it. There are times when I ask myself, what makes the difference between those who enter their later years with a clear mind and those who feel their memory slipping away? The answer I found isn't in age. I remember a small workshop I once attended at a community center in New York. There were over 50 elderly people. When I asked, "How many of you have felt like you've been forgetting things recently?" Almost every hand went up. The room filled with laughter, mixed with a sense of worry. But then, when I asked, "How many of you believe you can improve your memory?" Logically, only a few hesitant hands were raised. The answer made it clear to me. The fear of forgetting seems to be a widespread feeling. But after the workshop, a man named George came up to me. He was 69, a former bus driver. He told me that a few years ago, he would often forget his routes while driving. He was so worried that he decided to retire early. At first, he fell into depression, thinking he was worthless. However, one day, his granddaughter brought home a Sudoku book and asked him to play with her. Initially, he was so afraid of his memory that he had to check the answers constantly. But gradually, he became engrossed in solving the puzzles, and from Sudoku, he moved on to crossword puzzles and other word games. Miraculously, after a year, he realized his memory had significantly improved. He could remember his family's phone numbers and even the dishes his wife loved. He told me, "The important thing wasn't how many games I solved, but that I felt my mind was still flexible and alive, and that gave me hope." Another story comes from Mrs. Helen, 73, from Chicago. She used to love gardening, but because of her frequent forgetfulness, she often let her plants die from forgetting to water them. Disheartened by her inability, she wanted to give up, but her son encouraged her. "Mom, try writing notes and setting an alarm." She followed his advice. Slowly, her plant care became a regular routine again. Not only that, she bought more new plants and took detailed notes on how to care for each type. That very process turned into an interesting memory exercise. She shared, "Every time I remember a plant's watering schedule or when to fertilize it, I feel young again. I'm not just nurturing my plants, I'm also nurturing my brain." In my work with the elderly, there is one thing I always emphasize. Memory is not just a function, it is our connection to our very being. I also remember a study from Harvard University once published stating that people who maintain a habit of learning new things after the age of 60 have a 30% greater ability to retain their memory compared to those who lead a passive lifestyle. Essentially, their brains create more new neural connections, like a forest where new saplings are planted every day. This means that no matter what your age, your brain still has the capacity to grow. A living example is Mrs. Margaret, 76, from Boston. She used to love reading, but then gradually gave it up, believing her memory was too poor to enjoy books anymore. One day, her daughter gave her an e-reader with a note-taking feature. She tried reading again, just a few pages a day at first, then gradually increased. Whenever she forgot something, she would make a note and reread it. Surprisingly, after 6 months, she had not only finished long novels, but also joined a local book club. She laughed and told me, "I feel like my brain is recovering every day. I'm so happy because I know I still have value." Another story comes from Mr. Charles, 81, from Texas. He was a hard-working farmer, more accustomed to field work than to studying. As he got older, he would often forget things, leading to him leaving his chores unfinished. But then his grandson taught him how to use a smartphone to play a puzzle app. At first, he was clumsy with his rough hands, but after a few weeks, his memory became sharper and his reactions more flexible. Now, he not only uses his phone for brain games, but also for video calls with his children and grandchildren. He told me, "I thought old age could only mean going backward, but it turns out I can still make a lot of progress." The stories I want to share with you are about a journey to reclaim a sharp mind. For many of us, memory is like a river. When we are young, that river flows fast and clear, but in the twilight years, the current seems to slow, and sometimes it carries with it scattered fragments of lost memories. Have you ever felt that any of these situations resemble your own? I once met a gentleman now in his 70s. He would lament to me, "Doctor, I remember everything except the important things. I can remember the lyrics of a song from my youth, but I forget where I put my glasses." His story made me think. It turns out, forgetting isn't just an inconvenience, it's a feeling of anxiety, a fear of no longer being in control of ourselves. So today, I am going to reveal 8 simple yet incredibly powerful habits that you can start today to improve your memory and protect your brain health. First, you must remember to exercise. Many people think that physical exercise is only for strong muscles, but in reality, when we walk or do yoga, our body pumps more blood to the brain. This blood carries oxygen and nutrients, nourishing every neural cell. When you exercise, it increases blood flow to the brain, providing essential oxygen and nutrients. Our brain at this point is like a city being re-energized. You don't need to run a marathon. Just 30 minutes of walking every day, a few gentle yoga poses, or some simple exercises at home are enough to help your garden of memories begin to sprout. Exercise also helps release chemicals that help brain cells grow and combat cognitive decline. Second, we need to learn how to rest properly. One of my patients once said, "I toss and turn all night worrying about everything." Sleep is not just a time for the body to recharge, it's also when the brain organizes the pieces of memory from the day. If you don't get enough sleep, your brain won't have that opportunity. It's like a messy library. It's very difficult to find the book you need. I often advise people to turn off their phones before bed and brew a cup of herbal tea. Turn your bedroom into a quiet, peaceful sanctuary. Deep sleep is the time for the brain to consolidate and store memories. Lack of sleep reduces your ability to concentrate and affects the ability to remember new information. Make sure you get 7 to 8 hours of sleep every night. Avoid caffeine and electronic devices before bedtime. And third, I want to talk about food. You are what you eat. This saying is not only true for your body but also for your brain. Our brain is a sophisticated machine that needs high-quality fuel. Imagine nurturing your brain with nutrient-rich walnuts, plump blueberries, or fresh salmon. I often compare them to premium batteries that help the brain run smoothly. Adopt a healthy eating habit. Because the brain needs to be nourished with nutrient-rich foods. Prioritize foods like fatty fish, salmon, mackerel, rich in omega-3s, which help reduce inflammation and protect brain cells. Dark leafy greens, kale, spinach, contain vitamin K, lutein, and folate, which are excellent for the brain. Nuts, walnuts, almonds, flax seeds, cashews, rich in vitamin E, antioxidants, and omega-3s. Berries, blueberries, strawberries, help improve communication between brain cells. Fourth, never stop learning. Have you ever wondered why some elderly people remain so sharp and flexible? The secret lies in the fact that they never allow themselves to stop being curious. Just like muscles, the brain needs to be trained to stay sharp. Learning a new skill, a new language, or playing a musical instrument creates new neural connections, making the brain more flexible. Try learning a new language, solving crosswords, playing chess, reading books, or taking online classes. Every challenge, even just solving a difficult riddle, creates new neural connections. Fifth, connect with people. We are social creatures. Loneliness doesn't just make us sad, it also affects our brain health. When you chat with friends or participate in community activities, your brain has to process information, analyze body language, and remember faces. All these activities help keep the brain in an alert state. Make phone calls or meet with loved ones, join clubs or volunteer. Interacting with friends and family helps reduce stress and stimulates brain activity. Loneliness can increase the risk of cognitive decline. Remember, brain health is a long-term investment. Start with 1 or 2 of the habits I've shared. Be persistent, and you will see a clear difference. Don't let age take away your clarity. Take proactive care of yourself today. If we know how to care for and nurture it, our memory will become vibrant again. Sixth, I call it internal peace. Stress and anxiety are enemies of memory. They can create a thick fog in the mind. Meditation, listening to music, or simply taking deep breaths are all ways to help us clear away that fog. Seventh, maintain a certain order in your life. Sticking to a regular schedule, eating, sleeping, and exercising at the same time helps your body and brain function more effectively. Finally, I want to talk about mindset. A positive attitude can make a huge difference. When you believe you can improve, you will find a way to do it. Instead of complaining about what you have forgotten, appreciate what you have. Find joy in the little things, and you will find life to be much more meaningful. Memory is not just the ability to recall events. It's also the ability to connect with the past and with the people we love. Taking care of your memory is also about taking care of your soul. Start today, and I believe your garden of memories will bloom again. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like and leave a comment. This really encourages us and is a signal to YouTube that our content is valuable. We create videos like this to help you live a healthier life.